The shrill cry of the coffee machine woke me from my daydream. My fingers slid over the marble countertop in the kitchen, our kitchen. Even after 6 months, I still had to pinch myself to believe it. I'm 32, and for the first time in my life, I actually own a place. Jason came up behind me and wrapped his arm around my waist as we gazed out the big window at the backyard. After 13 years together and a decade of scrimping together for tiny apartments, we finally did it. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a backyard where we plan to plant the fruit trees we always dreamed about. It still feels like we're crashing someone richer's place, I said, making Jason laugh. Well, owner, you better get used to it. This 30-year mortgage means we're not just passing through, he replied. I ran my hands along the freshly painted walls. We had saved every penny, worked overtime, and skipped vacations. While my friends swapped cars every 3 years, we held on to our old sedan. While my sister Samantha went on international trips with her husband Brian, we were busy building up a down payment for our home. Now, our sacrifice had finally turned into something real. A home. Subscribe to the channel and hit like to get more stories like this. My parents' phone call came on a Tuesday. Dad needed another hip surgery, and the apartment they lived in wasn't accessible. Mom, with her advanced arthritis, could barely climb the stairs when the elevator broke. What if they came to live with us? Suggested Jason that night while we washed dishes side by side. We have the biggest room that would be perfect for them, with that adapted bathroom. But that's our room, the one we planned as our master suite. We can take the smaller one. It's temporary until they recover. I looked at the man with whom I shared my life. Always practical, always generous. I agreed, not just out of gratitude to my parents, but because it just felt like the right thing to do. A week later, we transformed the biggest room in the house. We installed grab bars in the bathroom, bought a hospital bed, and reorganized our stuff in the smaller room. Dad cried when I showed him the space. You didn't have to, honey, he repeated several times. Mom kissed my forehead like she did when I was a kid. You've always been the responsible one, she whispered with pride. The phone call from Samantha came 3 days after our parents moved in. Her voice sounded strange, tense. I heard that our parents are living with you now. Yeah, because of the surgeries, and why didn't you talk to me first? She cut in. I wanted them to stay with me. I was silent, confused. Samantha lived in a 1-bedroom apartment with Brian. How were they going to accommodate our parents? Actually, she continued, I was thinking of something better. You could let Brian and me have the house. We'd take care of the parents. I almost dropped the phone. What do you mean, let us give away our home? You and Jason could rent somewhere temporary. We'd pay $1,700 a month for expenses. Jason, listening on speakerphone, couldn't help but laugh incredulously. Samantha, the house expenses are over $7,000 a month, he explained patiently. Mortgage, insurance, taxes, maintenance, $7,000 a month. $1,700 barely covers the interest. The silence on the other end was deafening. Then her voice came back colder. You always think you're better, don't you? Just because you managed to buy a home before me. It's not about being better, I answered, trying to stay calm. It's basic math. The call ended abruptly. I looked at Jason, who shook his head. Samantha and Brian's car pulled up in front of our house the following Sunday. There was no prior notice, just the sound of the doorbell followed by the couple's forced, smiling faces as I opened the door. We came to visit the parents, Samantha announced, breezing past me like I was just another guest. I watched as they wandered around the house, Brian's eyes lingering on every detail. They commented on the quality of the furniture, asked about prices, and snapped inspiration photos. This house is huge for you guys, Brian remarked during lunch. All that wasted space. Jason squeezed my hand under the table, a silent code between us to keep our composure. The visits became regular. At first, every 2 weeks, then weekly. I noticed how Samantha always checked our pantry, how Brian always asked to use our main bathroom, the only one where we kept our medications and valuables. My parents seemed to enjoy the visits, especially Dad, who had always had a soft spot for Samantha, the little baby. I didn't want to take that away from them despite the growing discomfort I felt. After a month of these regular visits, I began noticing some small changes. First, basic products started disappearing faster than usual. The new packet of imported coffee I had bought on Friday was already half gone by Monday. The special cologne Jason gave me for my birthday was missing a few milliliters with every visit from Samantha. Am I getting paranoid? I asked Jason one night. I don't think so, he replied, showing me the garage closet. My professional toolkit is missing some parts. I decided to do a discreet inventory check. I snapped photos of the shelves, counted items, and marked levels on bottles. The pattern was disturbing. Every time they visited, something either disappeared or diminished. I gently confronted my parents. Have you noticed anything odd when Samantha and Brian are here? Mom looked away. Dad got defensive. Your sister has financial struggles. If she takes a little something, why should we care? You have so much now. Those words hit me like a punch. It wasn't about having too much or too little. It was about respect, about walking into someone's home and taking what isn't yours. The tension escalated when I noticed the wristwatch I inherited from my grandfather was missing. It had been on my dresser the night before and was gone after breakfast with Samantha and Brian. Jason suggested installing discreet cameras, but I hesitated. Monitoring family in your own home felt like a drastic step, a confession that something fundamental had broken between us, until I found my grandma's jewelry box completely empty after a family holiday. That night, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the empty space where my grandma's jewelry box should have been. Every piece held stories. The necklace she wore on my baptism day, the earrings she lent me for my wedding, the bracelets she promised to one day pass down to my kids. Jason, I can't take this anymore. My voice came out choked. I'm not paranoid. We're getting robbed, bit by bit. He sat beside me and held my hands. Let's record everything, every little thing. For 2 weeks, we documented every item in the house, from silverware to TVs, books to tools. We photographed valuables, noted serial numbers. Jason set up a detailed spreadsheet, tracking every movement of our belongings. It seemed insane, but it was necessary. We analyzed the patterns of the visits. Samantha and Brian always showed up unannounced, usually when we were about to leave. They casually asked about our schedules, wanting to know when we'd be out. I noticed how Samantha always asked to use the suite bathroom, never the guest one. How Brian always ended up helping Jason in the garage, where we kept expensive equipment. Did you notice they never show up together in the same room? Jason observed one night, studying our notes. While one distracts, the other roams free. The most painful blow came when I caught my parents stashing some pantry items in a bag that Samantha had forgotten on a previous visit. What are you doing? I asked, incredulous. Mom stammered, flustered. Your sister is having financial problems. The baby needs special food. What baby? There wasn't any child in Samantha's house. Dad looked away. She's planning on getting pregnant. The lies stung so much that it hurt. That night, Jason and I decided to do what I never thought would be necessary. We installed discrete cameras in strategic spots around the house. Tiny and almost unnoticeable, we placed them in the corners of the living room, kitchen, main hallway, and our bedroom. I know it sounds extreme, said Jason while adjusting the last camera, but we need concrete evidence. The following Sunday, when Samantha and Brian arrived, I suggested we all go out for lunch. We need to celebrate my parents' wedding anniversary, I invented. Strategically, I left my favorite purse in our bedroom with some cash visible. During lunch, I forced a smile as Brian and Samantha chatted about the incredible promotion he'd received. The third in 2 months, each at a different company. The restaurant was just a 10-minute drive away. Plenty of time for me to check the cameras on my phone. I saw when Samantha excused herself to go to the bathroom, but the restaurant's signal showed her still at our house. They're still in there, I whispered to Jason between my teeth. He nodded, calm. Let's give it some time. We got back an hour later. We found Samantha and Brian already comfortably settled in the living room, as if they'd never left. My parents looked uneasy, exchanging nervous glances that they tried to hide with exaggerated smiles. Lunch was great, Samantha exclaimed. But we gotta go now. We have an appointment. I noticed the suspicious bulge of the purse she carried. The same purse that was practically empty when they arrived. Already? But we haven't even had coffee yet, I insisted, subtly blocking their way to the door. Jason added, I just made that cake you guys love. Brian checked his watch, visibly anxious. Maybe next time. That watch. It was the vintage Rolex that belonged to Jason's father, the one we kept in a case in the second drawer of our bedroom. Nice watch, Brian, Jason commented with an almost eerie calm. Mind if I take a look? Brian instinctively covered his wrist. Oh, that. I bought it last week on sale. Interesting. Jason smiled as he pulled out his phone, because it looks exactly like this one. On the screen was a picture of his father's watch, complete with the exclusive engraving Jason had commissioned to honor the anniversary of his father's passing. The silence in the room was heavy, suffocating. Samantha was the first to react. Emily, seriously, you've always been so stingy. Her voice wavered between anger and nervousness. After everything our parents did for you, you can't share a bit of your abundance? I looked at my parents, hoping for some intervention, some sign of disapproval at my youngest sister's behavior. Instead, I saw complicity in their glances. Let's see what we've got, Jason. My voice came out firmer than I expected. We connected the phone to the TV. The camera footage clearly showed Samantha and Brian rifling through our drawers, taking jewelry, cash, colognes, while my parents kept watch in the living room, occasionally directing the couple to specific spots in the house. That drawer, Dad pointed at the screen. Emily has been keeping money there since she was a teenager, Mom added, and the most expensive ring is in the blue box in the bathroom. The betrayal was complete, crushing. 13 years of saving for our house, and my own family was colluding to plunder it. I want everything back. Now. I pointed at Samantha's purse. She clutched the purse to her chest like a child defending a toy. I don't know what you're talking about. Jason kept his voice steady, something I've always admired about him. The cameras caught it all. We've got enough proof for a formal theft report, with an added charge for breach of trust. You filmed your own family. Dad's voice brimmed with indignation, as if we were the villains here. What kind of person does that? The kind who's tired of being robbed in her own home, Dad. The words bitterly escaped. Why are you helping them steal from us? My mom finally spoke, her voice weak but defiant. It's not stealing when it's family, Emily. It's sharing. You've always had more than your sister. I have more because I worked harder. I couldn't contain the disbelief. I saved every cent while she traveled the world on borrowed money. I skipped dinners out while she bought designer clothes. Those choices have consequences. Brian, sensing the gravity of the situation, began emptying his pockets. Jason's watch, 3 pairs of my earrings, a Mont Blanc pen that had been a gift from my boss. Items accumulated in just an hour of our absence. It was just this one time, he tried to argue. We're in serious financial trouble. Like all those just this one time? Jason pointed to the spreadsheet with our inventory. We've recorded every object that's gone missing in the last 3 months. Over 200 items, totaling almost 20 grand. Samantha exploded, slamming her purse on the floor. A bizarre collection spilled out onto the carpet. My expensive creams, a silver photo frame, a few $100 bills from the emergency envelope, even the blood pressure monitor Jason used every day. You don't need all this. You have this huge house, 2 cars, stable jobs. Look at how we live, in a tiny apartment with overdue bills. And that gives you the right to steal? I asked, feeling an odd calm wash over me, the clarity that comes when you finally see a painful truth. I want all of you out of my house. Now. My voice was steady. And I want every single item you took over the past few months back by the end of the week. My dad stood up, indignant. This is our home too. You can't just kick us out. Legally, I can. The firmness in my words even surprised me. You don't have a lease. You don't pay rent. You're guests, and you're disrespecting our property. After everything we did for you? My mom sounded genuinely shocked. We sacrificed so much raising you. And I sacrificed to buy this house, which you helped loot. I took a deep breath. You have 1 week to find another place. The following days were a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. The once lively house was plunged into an oppressive silence after the stormy departure of my family. I organized my parents' room while Jason changed all the locks. "Are you sure we're doing the right thing?" I asked one night, enveloped in a mix of determination and guilt. "Emily," Jason held my face in his hands. "They weren't just taking stuff, they were destroying our trust, our home, our future." Calls started coming in on day 3. First, the accusations. We were selfish, materialistic, money-obsessed. Then the justifications. They were only borrowing things and meant to return them. Finally, the emotional blackmail. "Your dad is having anxiety attacks," Mom warned in a message. "If something happens to him, it's all on you." Samantha was even more blunt. "Everyone in the family knows how you treated us. No one believes you didn't steal. They think you made it all up just to keep the house for you." I blocked their numbers after the 3rd threat of a lawsuit that never came, probably because the camera evidence was irrefutable. The worst blow came when we received a notice from the bank. Someone had tried to access our accounts using personal information that only family would know. The birth date of my grandmother, the name of my first pet, the school I attended as a kid. "We need to change every password," the manager advised, "and create new security questions that don't involve family-known info." The idea that I'd have to protect myself from the people who were supposed to protect me was devastating. In the following weeks, we discovered more hacking attempts. In our email, on social media, even someone trying to get a credit card in my name. The professional impact was immediate too. We had to explain unexplained absences at work to sort out legal issues. Jason lost a promotion because he couldn't travel during the crisis. I developed insomnia and anxiety, which affected my performance. Mutual friends started pulling away. Some believed the distorted version told by my family that we were rich, selfish people who kicked out vulnerable elders. Others simply didn't want to get involved in the drama. "People can't handle the idea that family can be toxic," my therapist explained during our monthly sessions. "We tolerate behaviors from relatives that we'd never put up with from strangers." My parents' wedding anniversary passed by without a celebration for the first time in 13 years. Christmas was approaching, and with it, the grim realization that we wouldn't have our traditional family gathering. Part of me felt relieved, another part, an overwhelming loneliness. "We can create our own traditions," Jason suggested on a particularly hard night. "Family doesn't have to be blood to be real. Subscribe to the channel and hit like to get more stories like this." 3 years have passed since that confrontation that redefined what family means to me. I'm sitting on the swing Jason put up in our backyard, feeling the first flutter of our 6-month-old baby bump. Noah, our son, is due in the spring, a perfect symbol of renewal. The house around us has changed. We turned the room my parents once occupied into a cozy nursery. A space that was once tainted by betrayal now overflows with hope. Jason painted clouds on the ceiling and installed shelves for the children's books I've been collecting. We never got back all the stolen items. Some had irreplaceable sentimental value, like Jason's grandfather's watch or my grandma's jewelry. But we learned to build new memories, creating our own heirlooms to pass on. Eventually, we heard about our family through word of mouth. Samantha and Brian declared bankruptcy after racking up exorbitant credit card debt. My parents faced eviction from the apartment they lived in when they could no longer pay rent without our financial help. The consequences of years of reckless decisions finally caught up with them. There were attempts at reconciliation, all conditioned on financial help. "We can forget the past if you help with the rent," Mom suggested in one of the few messages we let through. Jason and I set clear boundaries. We said any future relationship would require family therapy, an explicit acknowledgement of past actions, and a commitment to genuine change. Not one of those conditions was met. "You're too stubborn," Samantha accused in her last attempt. "Family forgives everything." "Forgiving doesn't mean allowing abusive behavior," I replied, surprised by my own calm. "I'm willing to forgive, but not to put myself in harm's way again." Instead of biological family, We built a support network of loyal friends, co-workers turned confidants, and neighbors who traded genuine favors. We celebrated holidays with people we chose to have in our lives, not just those bound by DNA. Our financial situation flourished without the constant emotional and material drain. We even paid off the mortgage early after Jason got a significant promotion, and I launched my own consulting business. The security we built means Noah will grow up without the financial anxiety that haunted my childhood. What I learned in these 3 years is that family isn't an automatic right. It's a privilege that must be honored with mutual respect. Blood ties don't guarantee loyalty, love, or consideration. Healthy relationships require reciprocity, honesty, and clear boundaries. Sometimes people ask if I regret cutting ties with my biological family. I look at our home, not just the physical structure, but the emotional sanctuary we built, and know I made the right choice. Protecting our space wasn't selfish. It was an act of essential self-care. Defending our boundaries wasn't cruelty. It was preserving our integrity. Choosing peace wasn't abandonment. It was survival. As I caress my belly, I make a silent promise to Noah. He will be born into a home where trust isn't optional, where generosity comes without hidden conditions, where love isn't an excuse for abuse. I'll teach him that true family is proven through everyday actions, not by birth certificates. This isn't the ending I imagined for my family story as a kid. It's better. It's real. It's ours. And there's no one else stealing pieces of it while we're not looking. Subscribe to the channel and hit like to get more stories like this.